the side of the book you have in gold writing again, Oceanology. So let's open up the cover. And here we get a better look of the scene in the portal, and it is a huge octopus. Now, I don't know whether the camera can pick this up, but if you move the picture slightly, like I'm doing, it moves and looks slightly 3D. And then, as with all these ology books, you get these different little flaps, which we can open up and see what's inside. Lots of things to read. Let's have a look at the publisher's note here. It says, a sea-stained notebook documenting an extraordinary undersea journey, purportedly written by one Soticus de Lesseps, was recently lent to the publisher. The book appears to be the account of a real voyage, which is surprising considering the year that the journey apparently took place. Until now it has been understood that undersea exploration of this nature was not possible in 1863. Despite this volume having every appearance of authenticity, the publisher has been unable to verify the existence of a Soticus de Lesseps living in Paris at this time, and the only record of the mysterious Captain Nemo appears in what was always thought to be a work of fiction, a novel from 1870 entitled 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. Because new advancements have been made in ocean exploration and science since this volume was written, explanatory notes have been added by the publisher throughout this facsimile for the benefit of today's readers. Okay, so here we have plate 12, and it says Millipora, Dicodoma, fire coral, with its bright red branches reaching up from the seabed. The fire coral gives the illusion of being an underwater flame. And then here, in ancient times, it was believed that King Alexander the Great descended into the uttermost depths of the sea to penetrate the mysteries of the marine abysses. Aethicus Ister, philosopher of Istria, 4th century. This looks like a picture of an underwater wreck. And it says, I hoped our journey would be more successful than my great-grandfather, Bartholomew de Lesseps' 1785 voyage on the Astrolabe, I think that says, which disappeared in the Pacific. He was the only member of the crew to return alive. Well, we'll find out more about these different people in a minute. And here we have a lion's mane jellyfish. Larger examples of this magnificent looks like a little photo frame with a man, gold coloured frame. To my dear Zodicas, here is a small memento which I hope will keep you company while I am serving in, can't read that, Mexico, I think it says. I deeply regret having to leave you, my son, but I'm sure you will be looked after well by the professor. Stay well and study hard, just as your dear mother would have wished. Your loving father. And then here we have: writers and artisans embark on maiden voyage. A select group of creative talents today embarked on a journey of discovery. The group consisted of Miss Emily Hawkins and Miss A. J. Wood, writers, and Mr. Wayne Anderson, Mr. Ian Anderson, Mr. Gary Blythe, and Mr. David Wyatt, artists. The merry crew were led by Miss Nakeem Tar, artistic director, and assisted by Miss Sarah Ketchasid, editor. Okay, let's have a look at the next page. So the page is quite thick, as you can see. They're kind of made of cardboard. Right, so we should find out a little bit more about what's going on now. Okay, a voyage of discovery. Within these pages, Zedicus de Lesseps, will set down a faithful account of an incredible voyage that began on the 3rd of April 1863. Much will seem too fanciful to be real, but everything that I account did in all truth occur. Having accepted the position of assistant to Professor Aronnax, an old friend of my father's, I met him in Marseille, and together we boarded the Queen Hortense, a steamer bound for Cadiz. There we were to meet the mysterious Captain Nemo and embark on his expedition vessel. I had no idea then what strange lands we would visit and what wonders we would encounter on the journey before us. Okay. as well as the compass, which determines a ship's direction, and the barometer, which helps forecast the weather. There are many other essential tools for sailors. The sextant measures the altitude of the sun at noon, when it is highest in the sky, allowing sailors to calculate their latitude, which is distance north or south of the equator. The chronometer is used to ascertain longitude, which is easterly or westerly position. Longitude was historically hard to determine, as it required a timepiece that would work on a ship. Pendulum clocks, though reliable on land, did not work at sea because they were disturbed by the ship's rolling motion. In the 1760s, Englishman John Harrison solved the problem by designing the chronometer, which is not influenced by a ship's motion. The chronometer keeps the time of a fixed location, typically Greenwich in London. The navigator compares his local noon time to the chronometer's time and calculates his longitude from the difference. Okay, so let's go back up here to this piece that we missed. This little flap, The Life and Works of Matthew Maury. So, early life. Matthew Maury was born in Virginia in 1806, when his career in the Navy was cut short by an accident that injured his knee. He began to study navigation, currents and winds. In 1842, he was made superintendent of the United States Naval Observatory. Winds and currents. From the early days of seafaring, sailors had known that winds and currents could help or hinder them, but until Maury's time, nobody had studied them scientifically. Maury knew that ship's captains often recorded notes in their logbooks about the efforts of winds and currents on their ship's paths, but these notes had never been collated and studied. One of Maury's first tasks at the observatory was to trawl through thousands of charts and logbooks, compiling information. He estimated the directions and speeds of different currents by studying how far they seemed to pull ships off course. In 1847, he had gathered enough material to publish his first wind and current chart of the North Atlantic, which was soon followed by many more charts. These were very popular with sailors because they unlocked the mysteries of the oceans, cutting many days off their journeys. The Father of Oceanology. In 1855, Maury Was this one of the huge whales that the professor had told me about? I turned to him, but he was as dumbstruck as I. Slowly the thing surfaced. It wasn't a creature at all, but a mighty vessel. A hatch opened in the side, and a gentleman emerged. "I bid you welcome on board the Nautilus," he said. Captain Nemo. This is him, presumably at the wheel of the Nautilus. The captain gladly received us, shaking our hands enthusiastically. "I am simply delighted that this fine community of like-minded adventurers is assembled at last. I greatly look forward to sharing an exciting future of discovery with you all." However, something in his manner was slightly unsettling, and when Ned asked him where he was from, he was most unwilling to answer. So, this is the Nautilus here. One of the Nautilus's engineers gave me this plan of the ship. There was a strong steel spike at the vessel's prow, which Nemo told us was for defence. I wondered if they had ever had cause to use it. So, these are the specifications of the Nautilus. The length, 230 feet or 70 metres, width 26 feet or 8 metres, capacity 5 days supply, after which time vessel must surface to refill chambers at top speed of 40 knots. So we can open up this flap. And there we have the inside. There's a cross section. Okay, I'm going to bring the camera down again so you can see better. So this is one section here. So this part this is the lower deck. And let's see, what do we have? This over here is the engine room. And then we have some deep sea diving suits here. I think these must be also air tanks too. These look like, I think, different rooms, like a library. Here are some bunks for sleeping. Oh yeah, here we go. There's the library. Then we have the captain's cabin here on the upper deck. I think this is the dining room, perhaps. And private study. Let me move it across. We have I think this is the laundry. Guests' quarters. Then the medical bay is over this side, I think. Yeah. submerged for long periods of time, because weighted barrels of air were sent down from the surface to replenish the supply. It was fitted with a window for ocean exploration. 1797. One of the first diving suits was designed by Karl Heinrich Klingert. The jacket and trousers were made of waterproof leather, and the helmet was metal with a porthole, like this one, I imagine. The suit was connected to a large air tank containing the diver's air supply. This reservoir could not replenish itself, so the diver could stay underwater for only a short while. 1829, the brothers John and Charles Dean invented the first air-pumped diving helmet. The helmet was linked to an air supply pumped down from above, so the diver could stay underwater for extended periods of time. So this is called the Nautosphere. So let me show you where it is in the Nautilus. Here it is. So there's an access hatch at the top, lights to illuminate the seabed, a large viewing window, air tanks, 6 hours supply. There's the rudder, and inside is a comfortable seating for 3 passengers. Now this is a flap. Let's see what's underneath. So we have a diagram of the Nautosphere here. And then there's some writing. I was overwhelmed by the Nautilus's galley. It contained a wide array of food collected from the ocean, as well as a distilling machine to convert seawater into drinking water. The Nautilus had floodable tanks to alter buoyancy and control depth. There was also a mini submersible for undersea exploration, which Nemo called the Nautosphere, which of course is this. Okay, I've taken the camera up again, so let's read this. Underwater explorers. Over dinner that night, the captain enlightened us about the benefits of the diving